Chris Watkin back again with Richard Megson, who is boss man of ASAP, the people that do outsourcing sales progression for estate agents. Richard, you do thousands of sales progressions at any one time. What are your top 5 tips to getting faster exchanges and completions? Talk to me.
Indeed. Firstly, great to be here, Chris.
Thank you.
I have seen this sofa so many times. It is quite unnerving, I've got to say, but I'm sure I'll relax and I'm sure I'll enjoy it.
Thank you.
So, to answer the question, I think, well, there's obviously a number of things, but I think one of the key things is getting solicitors instructed early. When we work with agents, we encourage their clients to instruct solicitors at the point of listing. So a transaction cannot start from a legal point of view until all the documentation has been completed and sent back to solicitors. So we encourage clients to get that done before their property goes on the market, so the solicitors can start looking through the documentation and get them legally prepared to move.
Because don't most estate agents actually get the solicitors involved when the price has been agreed?
It varies. I think certainly over the last year or two, there's been a recognition that there's a benefit to getting solicitors organised sooner rather than later. But absolutely, too many agents still are talking to clients when a sale's been agreed, and we think that's too late.
What's number 2?
I think managing people's expectations. Lots of people that come to a transaction, I'm talking about the agent's clients, may have not done it for years. They may be in a transaction for the first time, but most people don't really understand or would know what the timescales involved are.
It's interesting, our mutual friend Peter Knight from the Property Academy did a survey, and one of the questions was, if memory serves me well, is how long do you think it'll take? And you know, people thought it was 4 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. They always undershoot in terms of timescales, and I think at the point of organising solicitors, it's a good time for agents to speak to their clients about likely timescales.
And do you think that should be at listing, or, well, they should be putting the house on the market and getting the solicitors involved almost straight away, but also you're saying at the same time to set expectations at that point?
100%. I mean, they are the property expert. You're onboarding your client. You're framing how the transaction's going to go.
And they're going to think the sun shines out your backside anyway, because you're just putting the house on the market. So
100%.
Really, I mean, what's the average sale? What's the average time between sale agreed and exchange at the moment?
Currently, it is a shocking 150 days.
Okay, that's quite a lot.
Now, there's obviously regional spreads, but yeah, it's getting longer, and there's a host of reasons for that. But
that's 21 weeks.
Yes.
That slipped from 19 weeks a couple of years ago, and it was, when I were a lad, it was 12 weeks.
Absolutely.
Which is 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about why that is the case in a separate video. What's number 3?
Build relationships with solicitors and work with them.
What does build relationships and work with them actually look like in the real world?
Well, I think that there's a temptation that, and certainly the last 2 years has highlighted that, solicitors and estate agents don't cooperate. But there's a lot to be gained from cooperation, sharing information, and collaborating.
I mean, are we talking about collaborating with your local solicitors, or, I mean, a lot of people watching this have factory conveyancers?
Well, there's different types of solicitors out there. I mean, ultimately, the view that we take is, I mean, we will recommend our own solicitors that are all over the country, but ultimately the choice of which solicitor the client engaged with is their choice. It may be influenced by the solicitor, but in terms of the type of solicitor you're dealing with, you've got traditional high street, you've got factory conveyancing, and you've got a lot in between.
What's number 4?
Identify information early that's required. So I've already talked about getting the documentation prepared and ready to go. So when our offers are agreed, draft contracts can be sent out straight away. But things like searches. Typically a search will be ordered about 5 weeks after a sale agreed. We would always recommend, and we do, order searches on day one once a sale's agreed if a buyer instructs one of our recommended solicitors. And the benefits of that are twofold. One, the search is getting ordered on average 5 weeks quicker. So actually, search results are back when more often than not, a draft contract's received by the buyer's solicitors. They're raising inquiries based on a set of search results that are already back. So it just makes the whole process far more efficient.
Is there any benefit for a vendor of a property applying for searches before the sale's agreed?
It's something we've trialled and are trialling.
Because quite often the buyer solicitor won't accept them, will they?
No.
Even though they're coming from an independent source?
It will depend on the buyer solicitors, but absolutely. I think sometimes the feedback that we've had on the trial, while it's a really good idea, sellers are not necessarily engaged with what a search is and the benefits of. A search is valid for 6 months in this market. There's no reason why you wouldn't do it. But generally speaking, it's obviously on the buyer's side. We just encourage a search to be ordered when a sale's agreed.
And what's the final one, Richard?
I think agents can point out to their clients their responsibilities. Well, one of the biggest delays is still clients not completing paperwork. I've already mentioned that until that paperwork's back with the solicitor, the transaction can't start. So it's really understanding or explaining to the client your obligations are and your part in the process and what you need to do.
Do you think the reason it's 21 weeks is that we lose a few weeks for the search and the paperwork comes in and the seller goes, oh, well, I'll fill that in next week?
There's so many moving parts in a conveyancing transaction. There's so many variables. What we focus on are those things that can be avoided. So educating the client, your paperwork's going to come out electronically. Please complete it, sign it, send it back, and we'll send it to the solicitors. So there's marginal gains to be had.
That was the words I was thinking of with the Sky Sports, with the biking. They do lots of little things. And what doing all these things, what do you think it could take the average, conveyancing time down to?
Well, our average transaction time from sale agreed to exchange is 14 weeks at the moment. So typically about 8 weeks quicker. So it's about organising information sooner, getting that information or paperwork completed, and things like searches need to be organised early doors.
So what you're saying is the power of good sales progression, getting all the ducks in a row, making sure the estate agent prepares the client is made accountable and chased, will mean that exchanges happen 8 weeks sooner, which means the estate agent gets their commission 8 weeks sooner.
100%. But good sales progression is not just about updating, it's also about problem solving. So our view is, and frankly, whether it's a company like ours or whether you do it in-house, if you do it in-house, make sure you've got a dedicated resource, but make sure you're preempting and solving problems, not just passing information back and forth, because that doesn't really solve the problem.
Thank you for your time today.
Cheers, Chris.